Hey guys, Patrick from Art Storefronts with you, and today we're doing another customer call for the uninitiated. It is where we get a customer on the phone, hear where they are in their journey, how we can improve the software, how we can improve our service, and just learn a ton about where our customers actually are in their journey. Something we certainly recommend our customers do with their customers because it's just a great way to learn about how your customers perceive your products. And today, excuse me, we talked with artist Judith Barath, incredibly interesting woman. She's Hungarian, living in Chicago, has been doing art for approximately 20 years or so. And I think she's got an issue that a ton of artists have out there. In fact, I know she's got issues that a ton of artists have out there. And it's interesting because her quote is, "Nothing makes me so happy as to observe nature and paint what I see." And if we take a look at her site, you can see that's what she's done. She's in a really interesting situation in the sense that art is just a hobby for her at this juncture. She's totally not relying upon it financially to pay bills. She's very blessed, but she would like some extra satisfaction of some more sales. And so, building on that quote, you look at her site and what can you see? There's a ton of different subject material here. We've got nature oils and cityscape oils and landscapes and gardens and abstract oils, figurative digital art, which is amazing. Art created on an iPad, even. I mean, this woman's talented. She can do all sorts. Sorted digital art, fine art photos, travel landscape photos, cityscape photos. So she just has a ton of material here. So one of her questions is, the niche selection question, which is a big one. Like, how do you specialize? What niche? Another one of her questions that we got into, and I'll switch over to her Instagram just to give you a different visual look. Another one of the questions that we got into was, what about SEO? She's had a number of people tell her that SEO is the way to go, and that's probably the most important thing to do, and that she can just invest a little bit of money in SEO. And what will things look like if she does that? So it was a really fascinating conversation where we give her some pretty pointed advice, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. And with that, let's get to the call.
Hi.
Hey Judith,
Hi.
Nick here, and I got Patrick as well.
Hey, Judith.
I, I know your names. Thank you very much for being there, both of you, and Emily also. I talked to Emily a couple of times, probably a year ago.
You're so welcome. It's good to talk to you. So let's go ahead and just hop right into it, if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
So so Pat and I like to start these out by tell us about your art business. Tell us primarily where, like, let's say in the last 12 to 24 months, before Art Storefronts as well, like where you have sold your art, what you have done and where you have been making sales.
Yeah, I was probably very inconsistent but I'm doing this for more than 20 years. And I had my own website. I tried different, art websites to sell something, but it didn't happen. And I was not really promoting anything every time. And because I was thinking my goal was that maybe it's going to happen somehow by its own, and with adding some Facebook and Instagram posts regularly. But
Okay, so which websites were you?
I had a website, judithboratart.com.
Okay.
And now and judithboratarts.com, and I had it for 10 years. And there were many different kind of online websites.
Like Fine Art America, things
Fine
like
Art
that.
America, I still am on Fine Art America, and maybe I sold like 5 something small stuff during the last 10 years.
Okay.
So basically nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
So you had your own website, and then you were trying these online galleries like Fine Art America.
Yes, and I had several one before, but I kept Fine Art America. Pixels, they changed it to Pixels, so whatever I have
Right.
that.
Okay, and then now offline, like it doesn't, like anywhere. I don't really, it doesn't matter to us where you have made sales, but where else have you been selling in the last like 10 years? Or let's try to keep it to the last 2 years if we can.
No sales, basically, just to a couple of friends, or when yeah, basically just a
Okay.
couple of friends. I can tell you that nothing, then probably that's true. It's almost nothing. And
Okay.
I don't
Okay. No problem.
understand
No problem.
really, but I cannot go further
That's
than
okay.
that.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. And is that basically the same for the last 10 or 20 years? You've kind of
Yeah,
just been an artist and just,
basically the same. And I spent thousands and $10,000 of different CEO options people offered me, and whatever it was, even Vogue magazine, or nothing really helped.
okay.
I don't know why my art is not what, or too much, or too, because the problem, one part of the problem is that I have 3 different type of artwork, and I want to keep all of them on the same website.
Right.
And that could be a problem. And the other problem, I think, is that I couldn't follow what your suggestions are. You know, that just my lifestyle is just not like that. I mean, I can't do it. Not as much as you suggest I should.
Okay. So you okay. So and have you tried selling art in person, and if yes, where and how?
Uh, mm,
Like you've never
well,
done an art fair, like a local art.
maybe I was invited to a couple of international shows, and about 10 years ago or even more, I went to those shows, but I didn't sell anything there. And my family situation is that you don't have to do that, you know, you don't need that. Just stay at home and take care of whatever the family needs, and it's okay, it's your hobby, whatever, we don't need that money. But you know, and that problem is that we really don't need the money, but I want to get some satisfaction and have a career, because back in Hungary I actually was a successful artist, and since I am in America, nobody knows me basically.
Interesting. So when you were in Hungary, how were you successful? What were you doing there?
Because I was working like a full-time artist until I was here, but I moved to America in '87, so for that
Okay.
it was too long time ago. And after that, I was working as a graphic designer and art director for different marketing firms, and a freelance designer. So I did a lot of stuff, but maybe in around 15 years ago, we were doing pretty well. We started to travel a lot. We retired, and basically I just was painting and photographing and doing whatever I wanted. I was hoping that the online website is going to work, and that, but it doesn't. It's just getting harder and harder.
Yeah. Yeah. But you said like, so your family, you know, is saying it's okay, like it can be a hobby for you, but you want to sell more. You want the satisfaction of
Yeah, I want the
being able to,
satisfaction that people actually interested in it. It's
yeah.
just basically for that. It's, if I don't earn any money, I mean, if you know, it's not like I don't sell any original, I don't care.
Right.
I
Right.
just want, you know, I was in a workshop and I was talking to a couple of people, and one lady just bought whatever because she liked it, but that was a personal contact. So I know it's important, but I'm not going to go to these shows and stand there for 3 days in every weekend. I just not going to do that. All I want to make this website as good as possible, so that the CEO problem is not a you know, problem, or it is as good as I can do it, but I cannot put much more time into promoting than having Facebook and Instagram posts. and sometimes maybe I can do this newsletters. So
Okay.
and I see that the website itself has problems, and that's what I need help with what should I do with the SEO options. Maybe somebody looks at it and tells me or fix it, because so many people would offer help, but basically they have no idea what an art website is about. So they just
And who
tell
here,
me.
okay, I got it. I got it. Okay. So it sounds like, so there's a couple of things, going on here already. Number one, where did you get the idea that SEO is actually going to work or is a good idea? That's the first thing that I want to know.
Because so many people tells me that it's bad what I have, and I don't know if that is true or not. So does it help me?
No. What I mean is that it's actually, that SEO actually works. Like it's actually a good time investment. It's actually even worth doing at all. Because Patrick and I are about to tell you that that's about the last thing that you should be doing. So I want to know.
No, I'm listening. So you tell me what I should, because
Okay. So here's
I don't care, what the other people tell me. I want to know your opinion.
So I want to give you my advice as a 20 plus year entrepreneur, 20 years in the art industry, and I'm just going to rattle through a couple of things. Okay.
Okay.
So number one, I used to be an SEO expert. I learned SEO back in 2003 and I was a master at it. Okay. I had websites that ranked like crazy, and it was amazing. And I got a lot of traffic and built a $30 million company from that. Okay. And with other things, with Google advertising and things like that.
Uh-huh.
That was from like 2003 to like 2009. In around 2008, I want to say 2009, everybody on the planet started learning SEO and figuring out SEO, and it got extremely crowded. And at the same time, Google started really updating their algorithm and making it so that you couldn't really game the system anymore. There's no like on-site SEO that you could do that was going to like all of a sudden shoot you to the top of the rankings and you'd have all this traffic and sales anymore.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But everybody promises the first page to you. So
yeah. So that was 2009.
Yeah.
In 2010, they updated their algorithm again. In 2011, they did it again. In 2012, by 2012, everybody in the marketing industry realized that there was no point to be spending time doing SEO anymore, because you would spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on it and you would get nowhere, and you couldn't game the rankings. You couldn't pay any companies to do it for you. I couldn't even do it myself anymore. Patrick couldn't even do it himself anymore. Nobody we know does it themselves or even cares about it anymore, because it is literally like every single person on the planet for the last like 10 years has been trying to do what you're talking about. And so it's the most crowded, overcrowded. It's like going to an art fair and there's a billion people trying to sell work at the art fair, and you're going, wait a minute, like I thought I had the brilliant idea here. And it's like, no, actually that's what every single person is doing, sitting in their room trying to type some letters into their code to try to think that they're going to get Google traffic from people who are going to buy. And so the point is that this is a marketing tactic that stopped working like 10 years ago. Now, are people using?
I understand. Okay.
And so what we're trying to teach you, Judith, what we're trying to teach you to do, and what we're doing in our art marketing calendar, and what we're trying to advise our customers right now, is the SEO of 2003. Like what we're teaching to do and what we want you to do, and what you're telling me you don't want to do, right? That like what you say you don't want to do is actually where the arbitrage is. Arbitrage, in other words, the advantage. It's what is not being done by anyone. It's the cutting edge. It's what's not crowded, right? And it's what's working, right? And And that's the most important thing about, what marketing should you be doing right now? Should you be doing things that are cutting edge and that are working, that are still working? Or should you be going back 10 years to things that just don't work? Because what's going to happen is, or what happens with SEO right now is, you'll spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on it, and it's not going to work any better than Fine Art America. Fine Art America, all these different companies, one of the biggest things with SEO these days is called domain authority. You've got to have a site that's 10 or 15 years old, that's been ranking for 10 or 15 years, and has been, when I say rank, it's got to be a very high authority site for the specific content that you have. And if you've done that over the years, then you might have some SEO traffic from it. Otherwise, you're going to spend, if you took that same amount of time, and actually a quarter, 25% of the time that you would spend on SEO, 25% of the money that you would hire an SEO developer and actually put it into like Facebook and Instagram remarketing ads and things like that we're telling people to do, you would have a much higher return on your investment than you would doing the Google SEO. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you have a startup company. You haven't sold, really anything in the last 20 years. And the easiest way to get some sales and to figure out who your market is, to even figure out what you should spend time, even if you were going to do SEO, you need to know what like subject matter do you really want to rank for, and spend a lot of money trying to rank on it, right? Like you're not going to like just like throw a bunch of money at your entire site and SEO every single image. Like that's never going to work. Like even if you were going to try SEO, you might as well go for like, the best selling stuff that that you have an advantage on, that sells, that people like, right? And the only way to figure that out is to get out in person and make some sales if you can't do it online. If you've tried doing social media posts and you've tried doing those things, and you have an email list and you have people following you on social media and they haven't bought from you, then it's not going to work online. You're not going to figure out what art is really going to sell for you, what your popular content is, what your niche is by just doing that online. You got to get out in person. And I'm not telling you that you have to commit like your whole life to doing art fairs and standing at a booth. But I'll tell you what, I think this too, Judith, like deep down, and any entrepreneur will tell you this, being an entrepreneur, like you can't go into it having like a I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, because the market doesn't care, right? You have to go out there as a business and try everything and see what works. And like, if it means that you got to get out there in person and do some shows, if you want it bad enough, if you want to sell your work and you want to get the feedback and the answers, and you want to, stop having this take so long, then, eventually you get a little fed up and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go do that. Like there's 2 or 3 shows in my town. They don't really cost anything to do. I can make some prints, or you probably have some inventory there. You've got originals or whatever, and you get out in person, and all of a sudden you start seeing like, wait a minute, people really like my cityscape oils. That's really interesting. They don't really care about anything else, or they like my nature oils. And then you start talking to people and you start, hey, why do you like these? What is it about them that you like? Like, you start noticing, what age group are they? Where do they live? What do they like about it? What are they interested in?
I completely understand that, but I know you don't like to hear that, but probably I won't be able to do this. I mean, I can probably talk to a gallery and arrange a show for whatever, even more. I did actually for a year, and I sold, I didn't mention that I did, like for a couple of years, every month I had a show in a gallery in Chicago, and I sold a couple of images there. It was a lot of work, and my family said, you know what, you just stop doing it. We want to go to Iran. We travel, forget it, So I had no choice, because somebody offers you that you can travel around the world, then you go around the world, not to downtown a gallery. So I'm sorry to tell you, but that's my situation. So
Well,
what
that's okay. That's okay. And I'm not, I never,
my,
notice I never said the word gallery. So I never said gallery. I said a
yeah,
local art
I
fair.
don't know what else I can do, because there are like shows, like 3 art fairs around me, and that probably I get invitations every year, but this is not what I will be able to do.
Well,
I
art,
just,
that's okay.
just
That's okay. That's okay. Let's,
that's the reality. So somehow I kind of would need help to to just get what is the most important things to make this website visible, or somehow more people, because the other problem, I don't know anybody. I have like 20 friends or 50 or 450 or 600 followers on Facebook, and that's it.
you
No
have
people.
to start, you have to start with something that, like, it's impossible to advise you because we don't know what sells or what people want at all, right? And I don't want to, like, I don't want to harp on it like too much. I want to pass it over to Pat to talk about for a second, but because I realize you don't want to go out in person. I mean, you can hire somebody to go out in person. When I say art fairs, I just want you to know, Judith, I'm not talking about anything about invitations. Like, there are 20 art fairs in the spring in the city of Austin. You can
Oh
go
yeah,
to any one of them.
I know. I know. In around Oak Brook and whatever, where I live in Chicago, around Chicago, there
Yes.
are many.
Right. And you can pay
I
like
could participate.
$150. You can pay $150. You have a table. You just have a little table and you make some prints, or you have some prints there. Some people walk by. You can maybe get a family member or a friend to just, do it for you and just see what sells. There's a way to get that done. But if you don't want to do it, I mean, then you don't,
There
then
is
you,
nothing else.
well, you have to, if you don't know, like, what art is going to sell, what your niche is, what's going to work, then how could I tell you what to do next? Like, what should you promote on social media? Okay, well, we could just throw some images up there, like, but we don't know who your audience is. Like, who should we target? Is it
Yeah,
older
that's my
people?
problem. Also, yeah, I don't know.
And you can learn that in like 1 day or 2 days being in person. So you could sit here for years behind your computer, but in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 5 days of just like at a couple of different shows, you can actually learn all of that. You could collect like probably 300 to 500 qualified email addresses. And then you've got some seeds. Like, you've got some seeds which you can plant, and you can start emailing those people and run contests with them. And then when they share your work online and they're on social media, they might tend to know people who are like them. And now you're expanding, starting with people who actually liked your work in the first place, and you know what to promote. You're like, you know what, I'm going to promote these types of images to them.
Mm-hmm.
But let me, since I've kind of said a lot, let me pass it over to Pat, because he's always got a different perspective.
Oh, okay, I'm listening.
Oh, great. Thanks, Judith. Well, there's good news and there's bad news, right? I would say, before we get into the good news or the bad news, what's success for you, Judith? Like, what would give you the satisfaction and the fulfillment from your art career? If you sold 1 piece a year, 5 pieces a year, 10 pieces, is it a financial amount?
At least every month I get like 2 or 3 or 5, then I would be actually happy. I mean, I don't need that, like hundreds of images sell. And anyhow, if you sell images like not originals, you get like a couple of $100. That's the most, probably.
Right.
So it's not the money. It's basically just that you feel like somebody actually was interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say good news, bad news, right? The good news is, I've looked at your art. I could tell you've been an artist for a long time. You clearly have some skills with a brush, and I do think you have the possibility of your art selling without question. I think the bad news is you don't have a website problem. You don't have an SEO problem. You don't really even have a social media problem. You have you don't know if your art will sell problem. And until you fix that problem, trying to figure out something on the website or getting the website to work is just not viable. It's never going to happen.
No,
Now you hear something like that, and it's impossible not to take it as a piece of criticism. And let me just say the following: it has nothing to do with the quality of the brushwork or the colors or the definition or anything like that. It just has to do with the subject material. And if the subject material that you're producing is something that the market wants. And the difficulty in trying to figure that out digitally is you really have to have a high level of acumen to be able to do it. If you do it personally, i.e., in a situation where you're standing there with your art, you're seeing human beings walk up, you're asking them questions. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Would you consider buying it? Why wouldn't you consider buying it? It's that process and those questions that get you to the place where you're like, okay, this subject material, this style, of which you have a myriad of styles, it looks like on your site, and things that you can paint potentially do. You just need to find out which one the market wants. And I don't believe that there is a shortcut or an easy digital way of getting there and finding out, which is why like the advice that we give is always to do a local show or fair, because then you start getting some feedback on what's working or what's not working. Because to think that, I understand not wanting to stand up at a show and not wanting to do a show or not wanting to drive there or even having to do it financially or any of that. And I totally get that. But it's no different than digitally. You can either set things up offline where you get instantaneous feedback and you can ask questions and it sells or not, or you can set it up digitally. But if it doesn't sell in the first one, it will never sell in the second one. It doesn't matter what SEO you do or what type of traffic or how much work that you don't do. You have to find out if you have a product that the market wants. And I think all things considered, there's no shortcut to it. There just isn't. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to sell. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're operating a restaurant or if you're trying to sell clothes or, if you're selling tours around, Budapest. Like, you have to find out if it's something that people want to pay money for. Once you have that sorted, then you can be in a position to really start doing some things online. And with your art and your style, the suggestion, you've got some great stuff. You just need to find out what resonates and who it resonates with. And so what I would do in your shoes is I would take it's sort of a diverse snapshot of the work that you do have. Take your best pieces out of each category that you think. I would set up the booth. I wouldn't even care if I sold anything. I would set up the booth. I would sit there for one day. I know nobody wants to do that, but I would sit there for one day, and everyone that comes up, I would have a conversation with, and I would see which particular style they gravitate towards, and I'd ask them why. That's it. That's all I do. And then I try to narrow down on, okay, out of everything that I do, the people were most interested in this particular subset of work. Why? That's interesting. Maybe there's something there. And that's how you build a business, and that's how you get going, right?
I understand. I was hoping that it can generate something like through Facebook, because people respond to that. But if I do that more, or it doesn't help.
Yeah, so, I think to get down to the core of the whole situation here is that you have to decide if you want to make a career out of it or if you want to make it just a hobby, right? And when I say career, this doesn't mean like 80 hours a week and you're working your fingers to the bone. But you have to decide if you want to do the work to get it over the line and get it there, because any effort that you've thrown in, whether it's online or offline, with a minimal amount of effort, you're going to get minimal results. And I think, that's a hard truth of it.
Yep. Okay. I kind of understand what you are telling all the time. And I read a lot of stuff you put on this website. And I agree. It's just very sad that that's all you have to do. Otherwise, nobody notices you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of the rules to the game, as it were. Sadly, there's no easy way to do it. If we could find an easy way to do it, we would have.
Yeah, everybody would be on the first page or whatever. I get it, but
Right.
I don't know. Could you have a chance to see the website stats, and does it suggest something, or it just?
I mean, the first thing is that it shows you that the Google organic traffic that you have is totally useless. Everything that you have already, because you actually have like some like Google organic traffic, like SEO traffic, and it's not doing anything, you know?
Yeah.
It's like untargeted, like it's basically what we call vanity traffic. It's not working at all. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
When did you implement the lead capture tool? Has it been going the whole time?
Yes, since the beginning.
Interesting, because nobody's opting in to it. And
maybe, yeah, and maybe 10 altogether or something like that.
Yeah, it's a shockingly low percentage. Interestingly though, from I don't know what this is. There's some interesting Facebook data with a number on it in the stats. I don't know if you see that, Pat, but that one from Facebook is actually getting an 8.7% contact conversion rate, which is really good. So it looks like on here, the one thing that's actually getting a decent conversion rate is from Facebook. And that's to your contacts. But the Google organic is not opting in. That's 0.55. And oh yeah, you've got this judithbarathart.com.
Yeah, that was my old website, and all my blog entries are on that.
Got it.
It would be so hard to move it to the new site that for now I just made a link to it.
Sure.
But it
one other thing, independent of stats, just another idea, Judith. It seems like you're in a blessed and good financial situation. Another way to do it, and I'm assuming you have a pretty good sizable collection of originals, just like the ones on your site of all the different styles, right? Yeah, you could even pay somebody to man the booth for you.
Exactly.
Right? That's what I would probably do.
Well,
I would say, like, I'm not going to spend a whole Saturday, a whole Sunday. I've got too many responsibilities.
So yeah, that could be an option.
Yeah, take your best stuff, hire somebody to go down to that show, have them follow our playbooks on how to capture emails and do everything, and then just have them have a bunch of conversations and just ask people which piece they liked and why. What do you think was the best out of all this whole collection? If you had to buy one, which one would you buy and why? And get a bunch of feedback like that. And I think that would inform, what further direction you can go, right? Because even if you only have a limited amount of time, but you still really love to paint, you'd still really like to make some sales, the fix here could be as simple as applying your style to some sort of a niche that really likes it and really responds to it, right?
Yeah. You think it hurts me that I have too many different type of artwork on the website?
No, I think it only hurts that you don't know what of any of those, will potentially sell because you haven't really tried to sell them.
Yeah.
The artists that do really well, like they might have like 3, 4, 5 different subject matter, but there's only one that really resonates, and it becomes 80% of their sales. It's what we call the 80-20 rule. 80% of your sales is going to come from 20% of your content, right?
Okay.
And so what Pat's saying there is, like, it sounds like you're from Chicago. Is that where you live? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, in the suburbs of Chicago, yes.
Right. So maybe you end up finding that your style of like Chicago skylines applied to, your painting style applied to Chicago skylines or, iconic areas in Chicago just takes off, right? And then that's your niche, right? And then you still can have all the other stuff on the website. It never hurts to have the stuff on the website. Other people don't care. But what matters is when you want to start marketing, you need to focus on something. You need to focus on building an audience of people. And that's where it gets really hard when you're spread thin across, like across a bunch of different subject matter. You really want to go after
Just
a specific audience. Cause like, if let's talk about like, if that happened and your audience was like, or the content that people liked was like Chicago skylines, right? Then you'd be like, okay, wow, I know that people who live in Chicago, people who grew up in Chicago, people who might've got married in Chicago, that's my target audience, right? And then,
so I really have to focus on something. If it could
yeah,
be photography, or it could be just cityscape oil paintings or whatever.
yeah. So
Yeah, it could be anything.
Because I'm posting sometimes photos, sometimes digital art, sometimes oil paintings on my Facebooks. It's always whatever I'm doing at the time. So you think if I would focus on just one subject and always just, talk about Chicago and let's say Chicago photography or Chicago paintings, that would be better.
Well, whichever one it is that resonates is the one that you should be promoting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm not telling you.
I really have to find out which one.
And you have to find out, otherwise you'll waste your time again, right? Like you've probably seen like you know the artist Meg Knappenberger. She's one of the best sellers on the platform. She's been in our podcast and she paints like the Kansas University like Jayhawks and things like that. Have you seen? So she spent 8 years or 9 years painting, bison, painting, like animals, like all sorts of stuff, struggled and struggled and struggled. And then she finally painted a Kansas University image for her husband and then posted it online. And and then, he loved it. And some of his friends came over to the house and they loved it. So she decided to go to like a show, it was like an event at Kansas University. And the students loved it and the alumni loved it. And like in a matter of a year, she sold like $200,000,
Yeah. I saw her stuff online and I was actually just surprised that somebody can do that with almost like one image and that works. And I heard that some artists actually paints only window with curtains all day life, and that's what works. And yeah.
Right. So here's the thing though, is that when she found out that the Kansas University, she was dying to get anybody to like look at any of her other work. But when she finally got out there and she saw the passion and that it was resonating with that Kansas University, then she went out and she hustled. She didn't just sit and she didn't just sit behind her computer and just do social media, right? She went on the radio, she went.
Yeah. She's probably, doing very well. And those are nice. I know you are.
Yes. But the point that I want you to know with that is that in order to get good sales with a specific content, like subject matter, right? Like you need to focus on marketing that subject matter specifically, because it's hard enough to build an audience and it's hard enough to build one audience that you can focus on, right? So that's why it's so important to find out which piece of content is going to work for you. Or if you need to take your painting style and apply it towards something people love, right? Like, for a fact people love Chicago, so I'm not telling you to go do that, but I'm just saying that for a fact that that's the case, and for a fact that you can target people in Chicago because you live there, and that that's something that you can do. And then what you want to do for if that worked, then you would spend the next year focusing on building an audience of people who have a passion for Chicago, right? And that's how you really build an art business.
Oh, yeah, I kind of understand, and then it makes me upset actually, because I like San Francisco too, and I like Budapest also, and I would like to paint all of them, sometimes, and that's annoying that you can just create freely if you want to sell something.
But I know it is, but once you create, but there's a lot of depth to these cities, right? Once you, let's say you master Chicago and you do amazing, then you could you could, you know, hire somebody to really manage that for you. And you could start really diving into this San Francisco, but you're at a different point at that point.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
it's that's the you know, the focus, the point we're trying to get across. And I think some of the things I want to emphasize that Patrick said, which is number one, you definitely are talented. The quality of your work is obvious. So I just want to commend you on that and say that again. And then, and you know, I think that getting out in person, I think that the fact that you're so willing to spend money like in the past, and you're willing to hire another SEO company, and these SEO companies, I mean, they drive me insane, right? You go online, they all do the exact same thing. They'll go to any website and they run the same like analysis, like, you know, and that they were running 10 years ago to try to find like tiny little, you know, words you're missing here or there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
None of that stuff is going to do anything. There is nothing wrong with your website. And if you really truly wanted to do SEO, there's nothing preventing anybody from doing SEO. There's no problem with the website with SEO at all.
Yeah, good to know, because then I'm not going to focus on that at all. Then I understand what you mean, because they just tried to convince me that it's really bad.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. If you do the show thing that Pat said, and you hire somebody to do it for you, who's smart, or somebody in your family, or somebody you trust, that will gather the information, and you go and you do that, and you have really good pricing, like, you know, because you're not really trying to make money. You're just trying to gather information. Let's say you normally sell something for $200, like slash the price, like make it obvious there. You're having like at this show, I'm going to give you 20% off or 30% off, so that you really, like, you will probably, the show will end up probably paying for itself, and you'll break even on it, but you will leave with a bunch of email addresses, a couple of new customers, and a bunch of new information. You know,
I see.
And who knows?
So there is no way around this, basically.
There's no way around. I mean, maybe there is a way around it, but it's such a waste of time, because like in one day you can learn so much. Like, let's say everybody gravitates towards your cityscape oils. Then the next weekend you do another show, or like in a couple of weeks. And then instead of bringing 5 to 10 different subject matter, all you have is your cityscape oils. And then your sales are 5 times higher because that's what you did, right? And then you're like, wait a minute, now I just made, my first show I made $300 or $500. My second show I made $2,000 or $3,000. And I got 3 times as many people on my list, or 5 times as many people on my email list. And you're sitting here and you're kind of enjoying it. You're kind of like, wait a minute, it's kind of fun going to these things and seeing people loving my work, you know, and wanting to talk to me. I know you don't want to do it, but like, it's kind of nice when you see people really enjoying. Of
course, I understand, and yeah, I agree with that. It just, I was hoping that I can do it, you know, while I'm traveling. I'm here in Budapest, and then whatever I am, it's hard to schedule a show when you never know where you will be in the world. So I try.
That much is certain. That much is absolutely.
It's not a bad problem. Just it doesn't. You know, it just doesn't work the way I want it.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, this may not be easy because of like where your paintings are located and inventory, but like, it doesn't matter to me where you are. You know, like if you want to show some of your pieces while you're in Budapest, and if you can get some feedback, great. Like, obviously the clientele is different, and maybe it's not your target audience, but it doesn't matter to me. But I also think that if you're able to at least do some of these in person and get this information, then things can change. Like all of a sudden, then if you're like, you know what, I know that my audience are Chicago residents that have like a certain income, right? Then you're like, okay, then if you said that to Patrick and I, we'd say, well, you know what? You can target those people on Facebook. If you want to spend a little money, you might be able to find those people on Facebook by spending a little bit of money, you know?
Yeah, but it for sure it's not going to work if I decide, okay, I'm just going to focus on my Chicago oil paintings, and I have also Chicago photography a lot of Chicago photography. So if I would start a campaign with Facebook or Instagram focusing only on those, and even pay for some Facebook ads, it wouldn't help me.
It's really, really hard. The best way to say it is, if you haven't had any sales, going and trying to spend money on digital advertising, which, you know, has its own steep learning curve, is hard, right? It's really hard.
So it's not going to work, basically.
Yeah. The in-person thing is like the shortest way.
That's the only thing.
And I know, I mean, I know all the above reasons, but the way that it ends up working is, ordinarily you would go and you would have a whole selection of your work. You would be sitting in the booth. Somebody would come up to admire it. You'd start a conversation with them, and you'd say, "Do you like any of these pieces?" And, you know, the person would say, "You know, they're not for me, but I really like your style. Here's a question for you, Judith. Would you come to my house and paint my front door? I know that sounds weird, but I'm actually a woodworker, and I spent, you know, 2.5 months carving this front door, and I would really like a painting in your style of the front door." Next thing you know, you go down, you paint that door, and it comes out, it's in their house. And then somebody else wants their front door painted. And then the next thing you know, you've discovered this niche that you can paint front doors in this particular style, and you're the front door gal, and your business just starts taking off because you have some unique niche that's totally out of left field weird that you had no idea there was this diehard community about. The only reason you found out about it was because you were there in person and you had a conversation. Now, the front door thing came off the top of my head. It could be any other remote type.
I understand what you mean. I always wanted backward. I wanted to paint whatever I want, and wanted to find somebody who actually likes that. And because I was hoping that that's the way artists work.
Well,
but
I will tell you this. I mean, your cityscape impressionistic, you know, images here. I'm looking at all of them on your page.
Yes.
They are phenomenal. Like, these are awesome. And I'll tell you a story. If you take the Chicago ones and you go downtown and you go to some shows, you are going to sell these. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Like, no question, you're going to sell these. Let me tell you a story. There's a photographer here in Austin that I was giving advice to, similar to you. And we were talking about a whole other topic, but he was telling me he sells about $3,000 every show that he goes to, every art fair in a day, in one day, right?
Hello, this is Don Victor, author of Drawn to Win.
I don't know where that came from.
Whoa. Okay. So he sells about $3,000 every art fair that he does in one day. Okay. Or it could be a 1 or a 2 day show, 1 or 2 days, but he said he usually does around $3,000 at these things. And I said, okay, like, what are you really selling? Like, tell me about how that would happen. He goes, it's so funny. He goes, I used to do, like, I did a couple of shows in Austin, and I had my photographs of like African wildlife, right? So like he would go to Africa and he would shoot giraffes and wild animals, right? He's like, and nobody was selling. He said nothing was selling. And you know, while I'm at the art fair, I look down and I walk around and I'm like, you know, there's a lot of people here. Why aren't they coming into my booth? And he goes, I walk down a ways and I look at this one booth and there's literally like 50 people in it. And it's an artist booth that had images and products and like everything that had to do with Austin. Okay?
Yeah, I see.
So he goes, so I went around, so from like for the next month, I went all over Austin and I started taking every photograph of every famous spot that I possibly could. And then I also went to New Orleans and I started taking photographs of New Orleans, right? And because, you know, Louisiana, New Orleans is very close, well, relatively close to here. And he said that, and so then he did that. He made a bunch of prints. He went to the next show and he started selling $3,000 a show. It was as simple as that. He's like, And that's the benefit. It's another benefit you have when you go out in person, because you start looking at like, okay, wait, there's a lot of people here. What booths are getting a lot of action and why, right? And
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I completely understand what you are saying. I just was not willing to do it somehow.
yeah, I get it. A lot of people get that in their head, like it's very common. So don't worry. Like sometimes you just have to mentally get over it. And I know it's hard to hear like right up front, but I'm sure you'll think about it and you may, get some motivation.
Yeah.
But like, it's just, it's nothing against you or a problem with you. It's, and Pat basically said this, it's every entrepreneur, it doesn't matter who it is. When you're starting a new business, you could be starting a taco shop. You could be starting a jewelry business or dresses. The best thing that you can do is figure out how to get in front of a lot of people and in person and get their real feedback and try to get sales. And to be honest with you, it is so hard in almost every business to do that. It's amazing that artists and photographers actually, and even jewelry makers, even have art fairs that they can go to. It's like, it's a dream, because normally for other businesses, it is so hard to get your product in front of people who are not your friends and family, like to get it in front of like 50 or 100 or 200 people in one day. It's just incredible that as an artist, you can either go to an art fair, you could talk to a hotel and maybe set up in their lobby, set a table up in their lobby. There's a lot of different ways that you can kind of hack.
Yeah, I can come up with ideas in Chicago actually with this paintings and photography. I have a lot of Chicago stuff. But I definitely think about that and maybe reconsider the whole thing. But if you are telling me that the website itself is fine, and I don't have to spend a lot of time just filling out all the CEO stuff, because I'm spending days and days, doing that.
I would completely stop doing that.
Yep, you could ignore
it. Just forget about it and just focus on rather just the Chicago stuff.
Completely ignore it. When you have $100,000 in sales, and then we can look at what your top 10 products are, and then you tell me, Nick, I still want to try to do SEO. I really do. I'll say, Judith, I still do not want you to do SEO.
I see.
But if you really want to, do those 10 images. But I still don't want you to do it. And at that point, you won't even tell me, you won't even want to do it, because you'll realize that the return on investment on your time will be much more wisely spent doing what we're talking about. Like, just imagine the return on investment on your time. If you take some of your Chicago prints of your cityscapes and your photography and you go to a show, I almost guarantee you're going to sell them. You're going to sell more and you're going to gain more emails in one day than you did for the last 5 years.
Okay, I probably can do that.
I think you can. I know you can.
Yeah, I didn't know what to focus on. That was my main problem, and I tried to do everything except the personal shows.
Yep, it's always the problem. The focus is always the problem. And then now the part that you'll love to hear is that when you've done enough shows, like if you know that the shows work, if you do 2 or 3 of them and you know that the shows work, you can definitely hire somebody to do them for you, so you don't have to be that person. Right?
Yeah. I think I can do that. Yes.
And then what you do from there, which is amazing, is you take all the email addresses you collected from the customers who actually bought and the people who signed up for your list. And we have strategies for that. We have a very specific art fair playbook, art show playbook that you can follow, so that you can collect maybe 50 or 100 emails as well as get some sales at the show. And then you start doing those, you're going to start building this email list, these people, and then you start following the art marketing calendar. You don't have to do everything. There's only the critical stuff on there. I don't know if you've noticed that there's stuff that's marked critical. And if you only do those are meant for people who only have limited time.
Yes, I read them, and sometimes I see, oh God, that looks so good, and I believe it works, but
So if you get, I'm going to keep on the track of the Chicago thing just because it's an easy example. if you go and you do some shows and you get, let's say 20 customers, and then you get like 200 or 300 emails of Chicago residents, right? And then you run a contest giveaway, which we're always advocating, right? That's part of our art marketing calendar. And you do that. The whole point of that contest is to take that list of 200 and turn it into 400 or 600, right? And the strategies that we give you will help you do that. It grows the list. And so what do you think is going to happen? Those people are going to share the contest because that's part of it. They're like, that's part of entering into it, and they're going to share it. And who do you think those extra 200 or 300 people are probably going to be? They're probably going to be Chicago residents, because the first 200 were Chicago residents.
Yeah,
or people who love
I
Chicago.
understand how it works once it started to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when you're marketing to them regularly, then then you've got a digital strategy that will work more when you're kind of out of town, right? But you're going to want to do both. Like, going to the shows is probably going to it's going to make it grow faster, but you will have a digital side to the business where you can then do social media and things like that behind the computer. You know, if you follow by again following our art marketing calendar, and you'll actually get a return on that investment, because the people who saw your work in person, you know, at these shows, and who sign up for your email list, they will buy after the fact. A percentage of them will buy if you follow these strategies.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I understand. One more question. I see like there is a, I think, very good boots and women bags website, and they have a collection, and basically every day they send images, almost the same boots. So, and it just looks good, but it's kind of the same stuff what they repeat again and again. And I didn't dare to do that, like with the, I thought that's boring. And I don't understand that this is the way it really should work, because I'd still like to see those shoes. But I was reluctant to do that with artwork, because I didn't want to bore people, you know, who are on those limited email list I have.
Yep, I understand. You know what's interesting too is, as I'm scrolling down your Instagram feed, it just so happens that the photographs that you've taken of the cities, like it looks like they're Chicago mainly, are the ones that are getting by far the most reactions, most likes, by far.
Yeah, there are many. I have really a lot of them, and but I stopped posting them also every day on Instagram. I don't know why. I just should keep repeating even the very similar stuff. It's okay, or it works.
Yes, it's okay, because not everybody sees every post.
So because I didn't have a new one, I was very happy with that. I didn't want to, you know, just add the same kind of stuff or the same.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if you saw what, like, one of our recent posts that we did. We were telling everybody, you got to make sure you're in these posts a little more. I've seen you in one, or you know, your picture's up there, but you know, take a picture of you holding the painting, or you holding the prints. You know,
yeah, I don't really like to take pictures of myself, but or post. But I see, actually, if I see other ones, I am emotionally interested. But I was also, you know, trying to avoid to post pictures of myself. I don't know why, but if it works, I will try to do more.
It definitely gets a lot more engagement. So it's a good idea to mix it up and have some where, you know, because the other thing too is that when new people find you, you know, and then they go to your Instagram feed and they're looking at what you've posted, you want it, like, if I scroll down your feed, I want it to look like you're like a working artist, like you're selling prints, you're selling pieces, you know, you're standing there holding a new piece, you might be talking about it, or at least there's a picture of it. Like, it looks like you're making pieces and you're creating and you're selling art, as opposed to just I scroll through your feed here, and if I didn't know any better, it almost just looks like you're traveling around the world.
Yeah, I do.
You're just traveling, taking pictures, no different than I might, but the truth is, you're actually selling prints of these things on some cool media types like metal and acrylic. I don't know if you have those activated actually, but I'm assuming you might. But you've got canvas wraps, so that's your actual product that you're selling, and it should be on your page, right?
I see. I was thinking of doing more of that, really. I saw other artists and who I follow on Instagram, and they do that, and they seem like successful with it. It's seemingly an everyday work what they do, but they are very, consistent of doing it well, and it works. But usually what I see, they are actually doing the same thing, like dots or, same design. And I would be so upset if I have to do that I rather don't do it. That's my other problem. So I just can't repeat it hundreds of times.
Judith, have you ran a giveaway yet?
No, but I was reading your articles about it, and I decided that I will do it once I get back from Budapest. I will do that. Right now, I'm going to actually paint here.
My advice is do an art fair. Obviously, you know that. Get out in person and do that. You know that's the most important thing. I would also do the giveaway, and I would definitely do a Chicago, photograph or painting, because the fact that you're getting like I'm looking at the third to last one you did was a nighttime Chicago downtown scene, right? At night. It's beautiful. And that one got 229 likes. The one that you posted after that was a red car. It got 13. Okay.
Yes.
And so, and then as I go down, I noticed that other city ones, tend to be like in the hundreds. And so I would run a contest with one of those images and see how you do. Because I'm guessing that some of the people who follow you right now on Instagram are, and probably on Facebook, are people who live in Chicago already or who like Chicago. And you may get some traction just from that alone, which is, so then you could have something nice happening a little bit digitally as well as in person.
Okay, I will focus on the more of this stuff. Actually, I really like to do paint Chicago and photograph Chicago, so that wouldn't be so hard. So yeah, that actually helps what you are saying, that what direction I should go, and don't spend so much time on filling out the SEO stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep. No more SEO. That's done for now.
Yeah. Okay.
No more SEO.
All right. Yeah. All right. That's actually very helpful and gives me some more, ideas and thinking of doing some shows maybe.
When do you get back from your trip?
Yeah, I will do that, and I paint some more of.
No, like how long are you in Budapest for? Like
for a month I have to be here.
Got it.
So it's kind of my problem. I always have to travel and be here and there, and then I can't plan stuff because I just have to be ready when my dad is here who is sick, and I have to take care of him. So it's not like I'm free to decide where I can be. And
no, you don't have to tell me. I have 2 small children. I'm not free to decide where I can be ever either.
Yeah. So, but still, I can hire somebody so that
you can.
I can solve it if I focus on that. So yes, that helps. I'm really glad you told me not to do this SEO stuff. I don't worry about that anymore.
Delete the emails. Don't return the phone calls. Not worth the time.
Don't pay them a dime.
Yeah. Okay. And it's very, very helpful what you are putting on website, and I read it a lot. And it's a very, very informative, definitely. So.
And you've been at this for so long. You're really close. You owe it to yourself. You got to do just a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to give up. If I put that much energy and money into it, at least it should work. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just have to decide. Like if you want it to be a hobby, just be okay with that. Leave it as a hobby. It's good. But if your true goal has always been to sell a
Not
little bit, you're really
satisfactory,
close.
The problem is it's not satisfactory.
Yeah, if that's not satisfactory, then it's not satisfactory. Then you got to do a little bit of work to get there.
Then I have to do whatever it takes to get there. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. So yeah, I understand that that's how it is. So okay. Yeah, I will make it happen.
All right, Judith, do you have any other questions for us?
No, actually, that was basically it, because I was thinking that you can actually do some, or you have some suggestion with how to fix the website itself. But if you don't think I have to, then basically no.
You don't have to. You don't have a website problem at all.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you so much for taking your time and talking to me. It was very helpful.
Absolutely, and keep us posted on how it goes. Okay.
Okay, I will do that. All right. Thanks
Okay.
for all of the work you do.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your trip.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dan. And
All right.
have a nice day. Bye.
Judith. Bye-bye.